meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission is being videotaped in its entirety and will cablecast live without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the Government Affairs channel on the Comcast, Sure West, and Strategic Technologies cable systems, and webcast live at www.saccounty.net. Today's meeting will be repeated Saturday, February 3rd at 12 o'clock noon. A VHS copy is also available for checkout from any library branch.
Cleared.
Now, I want you to take special note of this paragraph. I am also pleased to announce, as we will demonstrate in our first agenda item, that this meeting is being closed captioned. This is the first, okay, go ahead, let's all clap. Now you can really clap. This is the first meeting to be closed captioned on Metro Cable. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker identification form located on the back table and give it to the secretary right up front here. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the board and state your name for the record. Okay, roll call.
Dickinson. Waters.
Yeah.
Natoli. Morin.
Here.
McCarty.
Here.
Yee.
Here.
McGlashan.
Here.
Masawoka.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Leary. Sheedy.
Here.
Ex officio McGarvey.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Mr. Yee, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. My first official duty.
Yes.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you for that, and welcome back.
Well, thank
It
you.
seems like you never left.
It feels like I never left. but I had a 2-year break, which is a big advantage to the rest of you.
I don't know, I saw you everywhere on those 2 years. I don't know what kind of a break that was, but welcome back. We're glad to have you.
Thank you very much.
You don't even look any older either, Jimmy.
Compared to you.
This went on at council all the time, so it's just a friendly little banter. Okay. Would you like to read the first item?
Yes, we have item 1, closed captioning implementation.
Okay. Good afternoon. Bob Davison, Executive Director. Welcome, Commissioner Yee. There's one difference from the 2 years is I wasn't here 2 years ago, so it's nice to have you aboard.
Yes.
I'm really very excited to sit here and actually look on the screen, and I'd just like to direct your attention to the screen behind you. You can actually have a physical look at closed captioning in progress. And it's very interesting to actually be saying these words and have them appear up on that screen just a few seconds after I say them. I think your commission gave great direction, really listened to the deaf and the hearing impaired community who came out several times and asked that you provide this service. Your commission actually took the original request, which came from the County Disability Advisory Commission, which was to caption Board of Supervisors meetings, and basically said we want to caption as many meetings that we run on channel 14 and 15 Metro Cable as many as we can. And so with that, we are actually here at the first meeting that is being closed captioned, and I'm certainly very excited to be part of that. I will give you a little bit of background. In October of 2005, we received a letter from Joe Mendez, who's the chair of the County Disability Advisory Commission, requesting that board meetings be closed captioned. Staff informed your commission that they would research and also that outside expertise was likely needed, and it was. In February of 2006, staff issued an RFP for captioning services. And in April, your commission heard the compelling testimony from several members of the deaf and the hearing impaired community, and ultimately gave direction to make closed captioning happen. And then in June of that year, we had our annual budget meeting where you formally put the closed captioning in the budget for Metro Cable. And then also at that June meeting, your commission adopted a resolution implementing closed captioning services with the following priority. The first priority being county board meetings. the second priority being other member agency and city council meetings, and then the third priority being other board meetings in the board chambers. This is actually a meeting that's on the third priority, but since in working to get the closed captioning up and running for the board, it pretty much makes itself available for other meetings, including this one. And it was kind of nice that the first meeting be a cable commission meeting, since it was your commission's direction that made this happen. It was a coincidence in time. We didn't hold up any captioning of any meetings just to make this the first meeting, but it was certainly nice that it ended up happening that way. Now, since that June budget meeting, a lot has happened. A vendor, Caption Colorado, was selected, and we have Roy Hollyfield from Caption Colorado here today, and he will address your commission in just a few minutes. The commission purchased, installed, and tested equipment, which, as you can see from the screen up in the board chambers, that it seems to be working just fine. And we are here today with the closed captioning running for the first time. Like I said, after this meeting, the Board of Supervisors meetings will be captioned as well, and the February 6th Board of Supervisors meeting will be the first board meeting captioned. And the captioning for the city council meetings will be up and running as soon as the phone lines can be installed, and also as soon as the equipment can be tested. Some cities may be closer than others, but it's our hope that over the next few months that we can get all of the cities up and running, or at least as many of the cities as we can. So,
Bob, what about the other joint powers authorities, the Library Commission and the Waste Authority, Solid Waste Authority? What about those commission meetings? Are they going to be captioned also?
well, as of right now, and I guess it depends where they're held.
They're held here.
Right. So any meeting that is held in these chambers will be captioned.
Good.
Now, remote meetings held outside of these chambers, I've seen LAFCO meetings that got moved to hearing rooms and such, those meetings would not be captioned. But basically, all city council meetings of the members of the member agencies, at least, the board meetings, any meetings held in this chambers, those would all be captioned.
Good.
For after the captioning is up and running, there could be further discussion on, are there other meetings that should be captioned as well?
Bob,
Yes.
not being a high techie, can you explain to me and maybe others
Robbie.
how the verbal conversation is translated into the caption that quick?
I sure can, and it's amazing to see how quick it happens. Diane is going to correct me if I'm wrong, because she's probably understands the technology more than me. I was going to do some thank yous later on, but your Metro Cable staff, really, along with Diane, have really made this happen. We also selected the right vendor. Part of the RFP process was selecting a vendor that would help us along with the technology and such, and Caption Colorado has really provided that assistance and made it easier on us. So I do want to point that out. So I'll explain the technology, and then, like I said, Diane will correct me if I'm wrong. 3 phone lines were installed. One phone line is just for communication between us and the captioner if that's needed. Another phone line basically takes the audio signal from the meeting, as we're talking right now, and sends it via the phone line to a captioner. Randy could probably clarify. I'm not sure if this captioner is in Colorado or where in the United States that they are, but they are elsewhere. They're certainly outside of Sacramento and probably outside of California. So via this phone signal, the captioning is sent over to this captioner. And correct me if I'm saying this wrong, but they work like court reporters. They listen to the audio feed, and then they type into a computer terminal what they hear.
Wow.
As they type that in, there's this other phone line that takes that signal and brings it back to this building. And there is some technical equipment, including what's called an encoder, that takes that signal and inserts it into the video signal, and then that goes and is broadcast. And most TVs nowadays are equipped with captioning devices that could decode that signal, and if you decide to turn it on your TV, the captions will appear on your television.
So in order to make it a little more easy for the interpreters, maybe we shouldn't speak so fast, then, is that it?
No, we need to test it completely.
Oh, okay.
And I understand I'm a very good test of that, so, and that's part of the testing in process. But we actually did some testing with interpreters, including people speaking fast and slow, and I think they picked up on most everything.
Okay,
So it's,
thank you.
sure. Certainly, and one thing that we'd like to mention is that, we'd like to hear feedback. So if those watching on captions, can let us know how well this is working. All right. Anyway, I said the city council meetings will be running up as soon as we can, and that we're basically captioning the live broadcast. With that, I just want to thank several people and groups. Your commission showed great leadership in making this happen. I just mentioned, but Diane and the Metro Cable staff really put in the extra hours and effort. It was nice to see that effort, and it really paid off. The County Disability Advisory Commission, who came up with the first request, and actually Joe Mendez, he was going to be here today. I don't know if any of you know that Joe also works for Goodwill. I believe he's the CEO of Goodwill, and of course Goodwill had that large fire, and he's dealing with a lot of issues. So he really wanted to be here today. But he did ask me to express his gratitude as the chair of the Disability Advisory Commission, basically thanking you for the access that will be provided for the deaf and hard of hearing community through this closed captioning. We wanted to make sure that he was on the record of saying that, and is just sad that he had to miss the occasion today. And certainly the members of the deaf and the hearing impaired community, many of who are here today, who have certainly helped us along the way. And especially Sherry Farina of NorCal, who not only participated, but also provided our staff with some technical assistance in regards to what types of captioning and what things worked for the community, and also assisted us in the RFP process and at various other points in the junctures. She was always there to answer our questions and give us a helping hand, so Sherry was very instrumental in making this happen. The clerks and the staffs of each of the member agencies have been very helpful. Cindy Turner was really helpful in getting the board, and we had several meetings with Cindy's staff, and she was very supportive from the board perspective. And also, again, Caption Colorado, who really did prove that they were the right firm to be hired for this process. With that, that's the end of my presentation. Before maybe I open it up to any more questions, Randy Hollifield wanted to say a few words from Caption Colorado.
We have a few people that want to say a few words. I want to thank you also. You've thanked everybody that had anything to do with this, but you had a lot to do with getting this finalized. And thank you very much, not only from this commission, but from the citizens of our area.
Sure, I appreciate that. It really is from having the right staff, but I'll certainly take that.
I understand that part too, but it does take a leader, so thank you. And I know that our staff worked very hard on this, along with everyone else you mentioned, and I'm not going to repeat all the names, but I need to tell you that we really do appreciate all the working together that made this come forward. Does the commission have anything they'd like to add to this? No? Good job. So let's start with some of the people that want to speak.
One thing I should mention, which I think I didn't, was that we will adjourn this meeting for a small cake reception after the end of this item, kind of as a thank you for everybody participating in getting this done.
Good. I was going to say that afterwards, but thank you for that.
Okay.
Randy Holyfield? Did you want to speak something?
Well,
now they come forward. Okay.
You thanked everybody, and I just want to say, whoever you are, wherever you are, you're doing a great job typing.
Thank you. Randy?
Chairperson Sheedy, Commissioners, Mr. Davison, Diane, Metro staff, everyone here today. On behalf of Caption Colorado, very pleased to be part of this historic event for the cities, for the commission, and really for the deaf, hard of hearing community. Over 50 million Americans rely on captioning to basically help in their communication needs. It's not just for the deaf and the hard of hearing, it's for early readers, it's for English as second language. For those of us that have gone to noisy places and not been able to make out what was being said, if they would just turn on that captioning, we could follow along with either the sports program or the television. Sometimes you're just not able to make out on the DVD or on the movie, exactly what did they say. You can rewind, turn on your captioning. Oh, that's what they said. So it's just a great communication tool. On behalf of the 150 captioners that we have across the country, as the nation's largest provider of closed captioning for television and the internet, thanks for having us here.
Now tell us, where is it located? Where is the person located?
I believe this particular captioner is in Florida. We have about a quarter of our staff physically located in California, but we're all across the country in all time zones. In addition to television and council hearing captioning, we're also the captioning provider to a number of organizations, including Sprint Relay, which does most of the relay states as well as federal relay. So a lot of residents, workers across the country not only use captioning on television, but also now for conference calls, online meetings, Polycom events, webcasts, WebEx sessions. It's becoming more and more an integrated part of the communication event.
Welcome to the city and county of Sacramento.
Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Oh, question.
When we have replays, I mean, these are all being taped and videotaped and sent again. I know the city council that I'm on, we have ours broadcast again after the council, you know, like a Wednesday and a Thursday. And anyway, will this captioning be part of that? Also, when people play it back, we'll be able to bring up the, is this part of that
It certainly can be possible. I'd probably defer to the staff as far as how the recording mechanism is, but yes, it becomes a part of the integrated captioning, the television signal. And so once it's recorded on VHS, videotape, beta, it is actually part of the video signal.
Okay, you know, it seems, well, it's fine right now when they're listening and they're typing, but is it going to be there so people can use it later? Good, thank you.
Yes, yes, sir.
My goodness, it goes back to beta, huh? Okay.
Beta SP is kind of the standard production tape within the video production world.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Linda Cook.
Good afternoon, members, board members, Metro Cable, and attendees. And I just want to thank you all. My name's Linda Cook. I'm a member of the deaf community and deaf rights advocate. I just want to thank everyone that was involved, all the board members, Metro Cable, all their staff, Sherry, and all the deaf community that supported everyone. It's just fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last speaker, is there any questions? Okay. Leslie Burchell? Oh.
Sorry, we have another person that forgot to turn their thing in.
Okay.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Leslie Burchell. I'm with NorCal Center on Deafness. Sherry Farina Moody could not be here today, so I'm here in her stead to thank all of you for making this possible. Thank you, Metro Cable and California, what am I saying? Colorado captioning. I apologize for that. I see myself on the TV and it threw me off. It's like, I can't look. Anyways, thank you on behalf of the entire deaf and hard of hearing community. I look forward to seeing much more and being more involved in your meetings and in other counties' meetings as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Lois Diamond?
This is clapping.
Hello, my name is Lois Diamond, and I'm a member of the DAC. And this was my baby project for the past 2 years. 2 years ago, I started asking for captioning because I was becoming very upset when I would watch television. And I would be watching the meetings about, you know, Hazel Road being widened, Hazel Avenue, and I couldn't understand what was happening. And this is my town, my area, and I would think, I want to go to that board meeting and say, hey, we need captioning. You know, I want to know what's going on. So, I wanted to express, on behalf of all of the deaf community, our thanks to SAC Cable Commission for making this possible. And I also wanted to thank the Disability Advisory Committee for their monthly support, and to NorCal for assisting with all of the captioning services. We deaf truly want to have access to the world of information and understand what's going on around us. From this day forward, it's becoming a new era for us. deaf people in Sacramento will now understand what's going on. Now, not only will the closed captioning benefit us and the next generation of deaf children, it will also benefit the immigrants who are learning English, the senior citizens who have lost their hearing and now depend on closed captioning. Working together, Sacramento has demonstrated a wonderful example of how we can do this to other counties. And it's a celebration for us all. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all of the public that wants to speak. Is there anyone else who would like to say something? Now's your chance. All right. What's the wish of the council? We don't need to vote on this, I don't believe.
There's someone coming up.
Oh, okay.
Good afternoon, board members, Cable Commission. My name is John Franklin. I'm Chief of Disability Compliance for the county. So it's definitely exciting for me to see this special day and to thank you for helping us bring Sacramento County into compliance with the ADA. As you see, this opens up a lot of opportunity for a large group of people that has not participated in the past. So this is a great adventure for us in the county, and I appreciate and thank you for all your support.
Thank you. Be sure and fill out one of these forms before you leave, just so we have it on record. All right, this is for receive and
Legally
file.
blind, by the way, so I'll get with somebody that,
Okay, thank you.
on the other side.
Oh, all right. This is a receive and file item, so we receive it and we file it and we say thank you. And now we will adjourn to the lobby and have some refreshments and celebrate this.
Already?
Do you want to do it at the end? I thought, it says here we're going afterwards, or just, you
Yeah.
I just asked a question.
want to wait, or you want to go?
I feel that the rest of the calendar is probably going to take some time, maybe 45 minutes to an hour or something, and given the members of the hearing impaired community, deaf community who are here, that we thought that we would adjourn, have the cake reception and come back, but it's
Well, it's okay with me, I just, are we all right? Everybody okay? Take about 15 minutes, 10 minutes break, and then come back? All right, let's do that. We're going to adjourn for 15 minutes and go out to the lobby and celebrate and be right back.
So return at 3:15.
Yes.
You got your coffee.
Yeah, look at that. I came for the cake.
Welcome. We're going to reopen the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission of February 1st, 2007. We have, there we are, we're on now. We have nothing to report back on, but we do have a little feedback. Would you like to say something, Mr. Davison?
Sure. The members of the deaf and the hearing impaired community that joined us, and we had the little cake reception out in the hallway. The initial reaction we got was that the captioning was working very well. That even with a rapid speech rate or and seeing it up on the screen, actually, some of the members of the community hadn't had the experience of actually talking in sign language and then having it interpreted and then seeing it captioned. So, but I've talked about 5 or 6 of the community that were out there, and all of them said that it was working wonderfully. So I'm really pleased to hear that.
Well, I need to ask a question. Does it only tape when we begin the session? Or does it tape, you know, when the commissioners are up here talking, can it pick up that and start putting it on the screen also, or not?
You mean, as opposed, do you mean having it on the screen right now for the rest of the meeting?
No. Before we start, you know how the commissioners are coming in and people will say good morning or good afternoon. Would that be picked up on
No.
the? No, just the commission meeting itself from start to finish?
Right.
Okay.
So don't worry about it.
No, I'm not. I don't say anything I'm not supposed to.
You can't swear at me anymore.
Okay. Well, welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your short break. Would you like to read item number 2?
Yes, we have channel licensee grantee status presentations, and we have a few speakers.
Okay. Our first speaker is Greg Lindner.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Greg Lidner. I'm the chair of SECC. The major part of our BestNet report today is going to be a presentation on an exciting new project that we've been completing with the Elk Grove Unified School District. But first, I wanted to quickly update you on some of the BestNet build progress that we've had. All the equipment for the Elk Grove Galt link connecting the Galt Unified and Elementary School District has been ordered, and a purchase order for the extended build in that area has also been issued to Comcast, so that's well on its way to being connected. And then also the first-year sites for the BestNet rollout have been surveyed by Comcast for final cost bids, and those are in the works and will commence on the build once purchase orders are issued for that. So making good progress. It's quite a big job and a lot of details, but it's moving forward. So we're very pleased about that, and of course with the Commission's help moving us forward on that. SEC and its members continue to develop, implement, and utilize content which is specific to broadband use. One of the things that SEC is working with is the teachers in Elk Grove Unified School District on the Time of Remembrance Oral Histories Project. And Gail Dessler is here via videotape today to share with you the significance of this project. So if we could start the video on that, please.
When you're ready. No, because you got to do it on Cooper.
I know. That's what I do.
I think often to our students, history is something that just happens in a textbook or in a vacuum. It has nothing to do with them and their lives. And in fact, history actually happens in our neighborhoods and our communities. And World War II has a unique chapter of history that happened in the Sacramento area. Citizens in this area of Japanese ancestry were part of the 120,000 from the West Coast that were taken from their homes and relocated to internment camps. Their stories, I think today, are more important than ever, and a way for students to learn from firsthand accounts a different perspective, perhaps, on World War II than is available in their textbooks, and one that has great relevance today in light of 9/11 events.
Gail's a teacher in the Elk Grove Unified School District and actually works for me in my department, just does a terrific job. I'm very happy with what she's been doing here. But we have a special presenter here today, Mariel Tsukamoto, daughter of Mary Tsukamoto. And Mariel is carrying on the work of her mother started, and working with us to capture the incredible oral histories and make them available to all students and teachers on the BestNet network. So Mariel, if you could come up now.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here, Chairman Sheedy and Commissioners. I want to let you know how important the BestNet is in educational circles. You know, we are moving from an era of students learning beyond textbooks. And we have to, I think, match the technology that they currently live with anyway to make school not only exciting but relevant. And let me review a little bit of why the Japanese American community focuses so much on the time of remembrance. What happened to us is history, but the basic tenets of Executive Order 9066 are returned with Patriot Act 2. And children need to know that in the future, because of the way Congress works and because of the way the media and the hysteria of people who have fears about national security, that it is easy to then target another group. And I tell them that we're learning about these stories not because we want to tell you about our experiences, but because this is important for you. In the future, probably when you or grandchildren are voting, that's when people's memories will fade, and it could happen again. But we live in the most wonderful country in the world with a constitution that is designed to protect everybody's rights. But in 1942, the president, who swears on the Bible to uphold the Constitution, the members of Congress, the courts failed to do so. being probably influenced by fear and hysteria and all that occurs during wartime. The last group, we the people, failed in 1942, and because we can't let that happen, we are educating you. Now, having said that, children also need to learn first-person stories. If they don't have grandparents that they can interview, these stories, the oral histories that will be put online, now become available. And that's why this project is so very exciting. I understand that there's some way I can show you some of the samples that we have?
Yes, we have another video.
Okay, I guess, is there somebody back there that's...
It's magic.
You know, our Constitution that guarantees equal rights to all the people without regard to race or color was violated. And so it's important that the Constitution is upheld. I always tell the students that even though Chief Justice Charles Evans Hughes says that the Constitution is only a piece of paper, but to make it work, it's up to all of us to keep it alive. And how do you do that? Is if we see anyone's civil rights being violated, we need to speak out to preserve the Constitution, because that's the most important document that we have in America. You know, we live in the greatest country in the world, and the greatest free country in the world, and it's our responsibility to make it even better.
I think I may have managed to grow up a little bit faster than I might ordinarily have, because I was, my mother and I were the only, at the time, was the only family we had. And so the responsibility of us going through all of that, which when I think back on it, I wonder how anybody, not just us, but anybody survives an experience like that. It's not, most people would, that ask me about that, and I tell them, even today, an occasional person would not believe that happened to us. And I think that's the attempt to live normally and keep focused on, well, I guess surviving the experience. And one of the things that is very bad about that kind of experience is the unknown. Most people, I think, have problems with the unknown. Most of us are comfortable with knowing what the future holds and all that. Well, we were in a situation where we didn't know what the future holds, or whether there was even a future. So I guess those are all challenges of sorts.
Can get, the entire interview. What we've also done, because of a grant that another teacher received, we've paid teachers to take a look at this. And I don't understand that much about the technology of DVDs, but I understand you can mark certain sections. And so high school teachers that cover the U.S. Constitution have marked those sections that apply to their subject area. The 8th grade U.S. history teacher has marked those areas that apply to what they need to cover. So they can really individualize the content of these discs. Another teacher, English language arts, might be focusing just on oral history, because that's one of the California state standards now. You have to do a paper based on an interview. And if you have somebody in your own family that you can interview, that's fine, or you can go online. And Elk Grove has, I think, been very forward-thinking, thanks to the support of Mr. Linder and of a very exciting teacher, creative teacher, Gail Dessler. Doug Niva, who works for Sacramento State, has devoted a lot of his time to provide the expertise that brought professional video quality to these interviews so that it is easy to understand. The content has been edited by Doug Niva so that it's easier for teachers to use that information. And I congratulate the commission for supporting a project that really is bringing technology forward into the future. This is what children are going to find exciting. You know, we've got to go beyond books. We have to motivate the kids to participate more in interactive learning, because that's what they know. They play those video games and they want to participate. And if education can't keep up with that, you know, I think it's going to be tougher. It is, as a retired teacher, I know it's hard, you know, to keep those kids engaged. And I know some of you are, you know, with your children, your grandchildren, and people that you know, it is very hard to keep those kids engaged, and we've got to move into new circles. So I congratulate you and thank you for the support that you've provided for this program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Do you have any questions? Okay.
No,
Yeah, I just came up if you had any questions.
No, thank you very much.
Just one clarification, Doug Niva is with Smctc, so
Okay.
we're very proud to have
Got that. Thank you. All right. Our last speaker is Ron Cooper.
Each have a handout up there, so I won't go over all the details of it. First, I'd like to welcome back Supervisor Jimmy Yee, and I think the continuity will really bring a lot to the commission as we move forward. There's some key points on the white sheet that I just wanted to highlight. First off, we'd like to very much appreciate our continuing relationship with the Pig Bowl Committee. We did the game for the 13th consecutive season, the 33rd annual Pig Bowl this past Saturday, and played it back the same night. But also, thanks to our friends in Comcast, for the first year, it will now be as part of their on-demand service effective today. So if you have digital Comcast anywhere in the North Central Valley region, so that's from Sacramento north to Chico, east to around Grass Valley, and west to around Dixon, you'll be able to see the Pig Bowl anytime 24/7 as part of their free on-demand services. It's also going to play again noon on Super Bowl Sunday, just before that other game. And so if you've got plenty of chips, you can watch 12 to 3, our local Super Bowl. It's a very good game. Walt Gray, once again, contributes his services voluntarily to call the game, so we appreciate his professionalism. Also, you'll see a variety of different highlights there on the hometown TV and the game of the week. The attached yellow sheet indicates there's 45 events that have now either been completed or scheduled. And then on the other page, front and back, is a bit more detail that emphasizes the productivity of being able to take the truck in our studio in a suitcase out to these events, both sporting and community-wide events. It answers the challenge of a large county, many different occasions, many different events worth celebrating, worth documenting. So there's a real diversity of content and also geographic diversity that we're quite proud of, and want to compliment the staff and volunteers who make this happen. To go to that many different locales is really quite a challenge, and they're doing a great job. Speaking of that, our relationship with Cosumnes River College, we like to think that we provide training and entry-level employment opportunities for those interested in a broadcast career. And because of your grant funding and the frequency of these shoots, we've now brought on board 9 CRC students who are, the majority of them, this is their first paid job in broadcasting, and they're very excited and very enthusiastic, and have brought a real refreshment to our folks that have been with us for a few years, who were getting thin on the bench, as they would say in sports, and this brings in a fresh second string, and they've stepped up, and so we really appreciate that help. Once again, we are now at the 8th Place Call Sacramento Call for Scripts, and so those of you who are interested in writing scripts, information is on our website. including the most recent 31 films that were completed. You can watch them at any time. And finally, we are working together with some other groups to have a workshop tentatively scheduled for March 8th to discuss the impact in California on particularly public education and government access organizations of the recently passed AB 2987, because there's still many questions and interpretations. And so this would be an opportunity to kind of get together and see what we anticipate and what, if any, action needs to be taken. So, thank you. Any questions?
Questions? No, thank you.
All right.
All right, that takes care of item number 2. Would you like to read the next item?
Yes, we have a legislative update, AB 2987, implementation impacts.
Good afternoon again. Bob Davison, Executive Director. That was actually a good transition into this item because much of what we're going to talk about today is the continued implementation and effects on locally of AB 2987. And actually the purpose of my update is to update you both on the state processes and also what's going on in the federal government as well. Also, including your packet today is a report that was prepared by Rich Spasto, our consultant, that discusses the various impacts of what's going on. Also want to point out that actually what we're going to discuss today is some rulemaking that is going on, actually locally, at least statewide with the PUC, and then federally with the FCC. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how AB 2987 and the PUC process may affect our commission and what we should be telling the member agencies in that regard. First of all, with the PUC, the PUC did issue a proposed implementation order, and they released it on January 16th. It's about 300 pages, and I have it right here if anybody wants to read it. I read through most of it, and it's...
Jimmy, are you ready for it?
Anytime.
Okay. Anyway, I'll try to cut to the chase on the 300 pages and tell you what may be affecting us. First of all, what does change? And as probably has been in the radar screen for a while, is that the PUC order makes it clear that the local franchising that your commission does and does so well is preempted. And what the PUC order says that AB 2987 did not make perfectly clear is that local entities, whether it be JPAs or cities or counties, will not have the ability to issue franchises after January 1st of 2008. The final decision is supposed to come out in April. There's still time for comments. Actually, Harriet, myself, Rich Spasto, and others went to a meeting with the PUC. This issue came up, and it doesn't seem something that the PUC is looking towards bending on. So my anticipation is that part of it will stick. The other thing that's interesting is because AB 2987's build-out requirements are weaker actually than in your commissions, is it's interesting to see how the PUC is planning on monitoring the build-out requirements. And there's many, many pages of this report that talk about their build-out process, and I'm not going to go into that in depth, but their build-out requirements aren't as strict, but they are certainly planning a lot of scrutiny there, annual reporting requirements and such. And so it's interesting to see that the PUC is actually focusing so much on those build-out requirements. That makes it interesting because it's another thing that with a state franchise, your commission wouldn't be monitoring the build-out like we do with, well, Sure West right now because Comcast is pretty much built out. But what this order also makes clear is that there's still many things that are part of this process and part of what your commission does that they're pretty much punting, that they're making it clear that they're not taking any part of. These things include customer service, coordination of PEG issues, PEG support, and for example, the coordination of BestNet, what we've just reviewed actually in the last item. The collecting and auditing of franchise fees. If local entities want franchise fees audited, the PUC is not going to be part of that. And then finally, the management of the local rights of way, which is interesting because when somebody gets a franchise or a license from the commission, there's PED regulations and other regulations in regards to where they put equipment, notifying the property owners. and placement requirements, well, if they're not getting local franchises, then they're not signing up for those regulations which your commission has adopted, and which means that, and the PUC is making it clear that they're not going to be getting involved in local encroachment permit and rights-of-way issues. So what that means is that item gets punted, and it doesn't necessarily get punted to the commission, but it does get punted to all local entities. I know the city of Sacramento has been looking at the implementation of AT&T's Project Lightspeed, and some of these vaults have started showing up already, and actually asked their staff to come up with a new process in reviewing encroachment permits that doesn't just deal with AT&T and vaults, but just the overall encroachment permit process. But part of their process, I think, is, and we haven't seen drafts of that yet, but I think they were asked to address these types of issues in the updating of their encroachment permit process. The commission staff in the past has basically told member agencies what's coming, and so member agencies have already been notified that with this change with state franchising, that some of these issues may be coming to them through the encroachment permit process. We plan on, I believe, next month sending out another notice to the member agencies, letting them know again. Some entities like the city of Sacramento are already facing this. Others, I'm not sure if you're facing it or not, and others probably, maybe nobody's knocked on their door yet, but it's certainly an issue that many of the agencies will likely be facing. So we plan on sending out some advisory information in that regard. So that's pretty much sums up the PUC order that was released. Federal cable franchising is interesting in that actually the efforts have been successful, and basically the cable franchising reforms has stalled in Congress. Some of you talked to some congressmen and senators, staffs at Cap to Cap last year. That was just the beginning of the efforts, of the local efforts. That continued on, and ultimately there were competing bills, they were being combined, but that all got stalled in the Senate. So it doesn't look like there's any national cable franchising legislation soon. However, AT&T and others quickly turned from Congress and they moved to the FCC. And the FCC actually rather quickly did issue a draft order, I believe, or rulemaking in regards to cable franchising. And one of the main things that they're trying to do is require, in a sense, a shot clock that, I don't remember the time frame, Harriet might know, but maybe it's 90 days that if somebody applies for a local franchise, that a franchise needs to be issued in a certain time period. Well, with state franchising, that's kind of a moot issue for us. And in fact, your commission's process for franchising was better than what the FCC is requiring anyway. So the bottom line was these FCC rules is it doesn't really seem like it will have any significant impact on the commission. The more impact will come from the state franchising process. Interesting enough, there's an expected legal challenge on these FCC rules anyway. There are many, including one of the FCC commissioners who issued a dissent opinion, that don't believe the FCC has the authority to do what they did. So it's likely that that's all going to end up in litigation anyway. But the bottom line is I don't believe there's a significant effect on your commission either way. Rich's report discusses some questions that might be coming up. For example, incumbents, will they abrogate or not? And we don't really know the answer to that unless they want to come up today and tell you if they're going to or not. But first of all, you need somebody to come into town and say that they're going to apply for a state franchise. And from all that we've heard is that AT&T is planning on doing this, and it wouldn't surprise me after April 1st to see someone like AT&T come into town and declare that they're going to apply for a state franchise that includes some or all of these local areas. But we don't really know that. And abrogation, meaning, just to review, that current license or franchise holders can opt out of their current franchise and license agreement, can't happen unless competition comes to town, okay? But with that, there are several factors that may lead towards them opting out or not opting out of these local franchise agreements. There is a narrowed gross revenues definition in AB 2987, so maybe they can pay less. At least with Comcast, we think that's kind of a moot issue because it's more consistent with what we think that they've been paying in the past. So the revenue issue will probably not be that significant for us. There's fewer customer service requirements. Customer service requirements in AB 2987 are weaker. There is, as we discussed the balanced build, our process for monitoring build out may be more rigorous than what's required in the state, where someone with a statewide franchise, if they can show that they're serving certain areas statewide, whether they're in our community or not, as opposed to a balanced build where as they build out that they're serving people of lower and higher incomes equally. There are some differences there, but they might find the state process easier. Also too is that if they are truly doing statewide franchises and plan on doing business statewide, is they just might find it easier working with the state franchise. However, there are issues that may favor not opting out. One is working with the PUC. I don't know how it is to work with the PUC, but they may, your commission has a good reputation for working with the different license holders and franchise holders, and it may be that some prefer to work with us and not the PUC. We won't know that till it comes out, but that could be the case. Even though the monitoring is not as stringent as maybe ours, it may be that the processing of the build-out monitoring is easier to handle with us than with the PUC. So that could be another factor. Also, just locally, when one deals with the Commission for Cable Issues, they're dealing with 7 entities at once, and there may still be an economy there that is attractive to our current license and franchise holders. So that could also lead towards them not opting out. And then finally, your commission did impose but not authorize collection yet of an up to 3% PEG fee that ultimately could be implemented, and if state franchises start happening, that is likely to be an issue that your commission may take up. And so certainly somebody with a current franchise or license may decide not to opt out if it looks like that they may be subject to that fee. So those are all things, policy decisions that don't need to be acted on today, but certainly if somebody comes to town with a state franchise, and then we'll be coming back to your commission with certain policy issues like that one. So then again, so even if we get this abrogation, what changes? Well, not much really. Basically, there are so many issues that have been punted to the local levels that the commission can still continue in regards to customer service and in regards to PEG coordination and support, franchise fees, auditing, as well as PEG fees and other issues. So even if everybody opts out, there may still be a role for the commission, and that's something, again, that we can talk about at future meetings. So what should the commission's policy be towards new entrants if new entrants come in? What should we be telling our member agencies? And we think what we should be telling the member agencies is that pretty much status quo for now at least. Your commission did approve some ordinance amendments last year that talks about, in I think 3 years, looking at the commission, the structure of the commission, and whether it makes sense to wind down the commission, maybe transition to some other form of management of local cable franchises and such, and that's still there. I mean, nothing with AB 2987 is really accelerating that nor taking that away. And without predicting what will happen with that examination, to say today that the commission will be going away, I think is premature. I think there are some out there that think that because of AB 2987 that the commission's just going to expire like that, and we don't think that's the case, especially with all these things that have been punted to the local level. So, and with that, there could be some policy issues that you'll be facing as well in regards to what if some of the member agencies decide that they want to go at it alone. For example, let's say AT&T goes to one of the member agencies and the member agency decides that they'd rather, work with AT&T on a state franchise and not have the commission be a part of that. I mean, that could happen, and actually in talking to Rich Esposito, that's always been the case, is that franchise holders could have approached the city at any time or the county at any time and asked to have a franchise just for that city or county, and it never happened. If that does happen with state franchising, it would really be the same. It's the same thing happening that could have happened before with local franchising. There are some difficulties in that regard. For example, how will they get the meetings on TV, on the cable channels without going through the commission, and or how do they work with Metro Cable if that's in fact going to be how those meetings are still broadcast? How does the PEG, how do the PEG issues get coordinated? BestNet is a good example of that. Your commission, especially with Harriet's leadership, did a real good job of working with Smctc and others in implementing the BestNet project. That might be difficult to carry off with 7 different entities all trying to organize the same thing. And then, of course, you're dealing with a less experienced staff, and do the local entities really want to be dealing with all the customer services issues that come up that the Cable Commission handles as well. And then finally, if member agencies do decide that they want to go it alone, there's nothing that really prevents that, and that could bring some other policy decisions to your commission, such as, okay, so if they're getting state franchise revenues, does that somehow get deducted if they're still going to use a commission to coordinate PEG and customer service and all of the other things that the commission does? Again, that's just, you know, talking about policy decisions that may come to your commission in the future. The only thing that we're really asking you today is that we plan to tell member agencies that in regards to whether it's a state franchise or something else, that the cable TV issues, requests for state franchises should still be referred to the commission. And 2, we do feel that we want to let the member entities know that they really should look at their encroachment permit process if they haven't done that already, because right now, if somebody comes to town and they're not, the ordinances that apply to local franchises aren't applying, and some of certainly issues can come up in regards to customer service issues of build out of new systems in some of the areas. So it would behoove everybody to look at their encroachment permit process to make, and maybe even adopt some ordinances or regulations that are similar to what the commission has adopted in the past. So with that, the ultimate conclusion is that even with all this happening, that the changes to the local, your commission and on a local level are not all that dramatic, and it's still an evolving, ongoing thing that we'll continue to report back to your commission on. And with that, I or Harriet can answer any questions that you might have.
Commissioner McCarty has a question.
Thank you. A question and kind of a comment too, and I apologize, I have to get going in a few minutes, but I for one have brought this up every commission hearing for the last 4, questioning the need of this commission in the post world, and I appreciate you kind of laying out that. But I would ask our commission to ask another question to ourselves, not is what type of things we can do in the future, but let's assume that we never had a cable commission, and all of a sudden these new state franchise rules come into play. Would we want to create a cable commission to do the things that we're proposing to do when these folks abrogate and go elsewhere? In other words, that are we really just trying to make shift and do and just hang on to what little we have, or is it really significant? Because I would venture that there's cities up and down the state who never, or communities that never had a cable commission, or they develop these individual cable agreements, and now Verizon or AT&T comes in there, Comcast, Charter, who's a big one in Southern California, Cox, someone comes in there and opens everything up. Are these communities all of a sudden going to say, let's create a cable commission to take a look at, you know, BestNet? I don't want to diminish BestNet or our local public access, but, you know, I want to make sure that that's the wisest thing that we can be doing and that makes the most sense, because I'm not convinced if and when a telephone company comes in and starts going and our current cable guys take a hike and do a statewide thing, that it makes sense for us to be in this business. This is a conversation that you said we want to have in the months to come, but I'm in serious doubt about that. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. McIvory?
Yeah, to add to that, I'm just curious. I'm sorry.
One moment. Go ahead.
Go ahead. He's talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
He can finish. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just curious итwide, the communities that do have it, you know, in other words, I have had the chance at California League of Cities of talking to other communities, asking how we got our city council meetings on TV, and I said it was through a cable commission, you know, and they didn't have the funding, didn't have the mechanism. So I'd be curious to know what factually is out there as far as, I know a lot of cities go it alone. And maybe that's where a lot of the problems that brought this assembly bill up from is, and we seem to be the model, not only with the region approach to television, but just today with the closed captioning, that's where we're leading the state and the nation with that. So I think that's significant. So I'd be, again, curious to know how many are out there doing what we're doing and are successful.
And I think it's true what you said about us being a model. In fact, I think in the report, Rich even says that a lot of what's in AB 297 was modeled after the commission. And the reason prompting state franchising wasn't because of what was going on in Sacramento. It was because of what was going on maybe in other jurisdictions. But your points are well taken as well.
Okay, thank you. McCarthy.
Did you say that, is it next year that all of them, including Comcast and the rest, will have to have the state franchise?
No, actually, what I said was, and this is based on the PUC's draft ruling, is that starting January 1st of 2008, no new local franchises can be issued by local entities. But that doesn't mean that the Comcast franchise or the Sure West or the STI franchise or the Frontier or any other franchise or license we have goes away. Now, when those licenses ultimately expire, that may be the effect. It may be when they expire. I'd have to ask Harriet to confirm whether that's the case. The Comcast franchise goes to 2024, so it's certainly a long time away. The Sure West franchise expires, the license, expires before that. But no, those don't go away. Now, what does happen, though, starting actually in April 1st, if somebody applies for a state franchise and it includes our local area, then it would allow some of our current license and franchise holders to opt out, to abrogate their existing contract. So we could be left in a situation where there is not a local franchise and that there's a conversion over to a state franchise. But we won't know that until A, somebody comes to town and announces their intention to have a state franchise, and B, that our current franchise and license holders decide that it's in their best interest to opt out. So.
Okay, so April 1st, we can think that there's a strong possibility that AT&T will apply for a franchise.
I'm only saying that because I've been told by staffers at AT&T that's what they plan to do. But I'm not certainly speaking for AT&T, and if they didn't tell me that specifically, I wouldn't have told that to your commission. It also wouldn't surprise me to see that it doesn't happen around April, or it doesn't happen for longer than that. But I think the indication is that at least AT&T is likely to announce that for our area, or some portions of our areas.
Okay, so and one other thing that my last question is our first obligation is to our customers, our constituents, people in the cities, the counties. We want to make sure they have good service. But second is the money that the cities and counties have been receiving that have been collected by the Cable Commission. It still says 5% franchise or license fees paid, but again, like I said at the last meeting we had, it's 5% of what? Right. We still don't know what that's going to be. You can still get 5% of 100, that's one thing. 5% of 80, it's still 5%, but it's not the same thing. So that's something that could make a difference on your money you're going to be spending on in your city or your county. If the money isn't there, then you have to change things. So that's something will have to be looked at.
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item.
Our next item is franchise licensee general status presentations. At the moment, I don't have any speaker IDs for that.
Okay, and moving right along.
Then we have staff status report, item 5, meeting schedule, investment policy, and miscellaneous.
Included in your packet is a resolution adopting a revised investment policy. This had been discussed at previous meetings, and I'll just recommend that you adopt that resolution.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So ordered. Okay.
In regard to meeting schedule, and actually I'll defer to Diane, did we discuss not having a meeting next month?
We had thought that probably our next one's going to be April 5, but I think we were going to keep the March schedule just until we got closer.
So what we're proposing is that it's likely that we cancel the March meeting, but we'll coordinate with the chair and certainly send out notice in plenty of time if that's the case. But we would imagine that there will be an April meeting and not likely to be a March meeting. But there's no resolution in your packet today that cancels the meeting formally.
All right, and you'll let us know so we can let everybody else know.
Question.
Yes.
What about the must-have a meeting annually that's proposed, and that would do away with the monthly meetings unless they're needed? Or, I mean, because how I interpret that, excuse me, it's an annual meeting we must have, and if others are needed, we would call them. Is that going to be the way it's going to be then?
Yeah, and I think we're pretty much working under that mode. In other words, and we've been kind of doing this ongoing basis, working with the chair and canceling the meetings as we go forward. So, but yes, the ordinance amendments that you adopted last year require one annual meeting, and that's probably the June budget meeting. Any meeting after that is basically up to whether there's issues that need to be discussed and the chair. Right now, and I guess, you know, since that was adopted, actually there have been so many issues going on with AB 2987 and closed captioning and other issues, is that we haven't had meetings every month, that we've almost had one every other month. The frequency of that could be reduced if the issues go down. In fact, somebody told me at one time this was a part-time job, and that might be part of it as well. But the reason we think there might be an April meeting is just because with time with the implementation of AB 2987 and maybe some other issues in NOFIN, is that we think that there might be some issues that need to be discussed before we get to the June budget meeting. I would anticipate right now is that we don't have a meeting next month, that we have one in April, not in May and June. That could change if, you know, maybe if somebody applies for a license, or if a state, somebody decides that they're going to request a state franchise in our area. Those are reasons that might require us to have a meeting sooner.
So keep it on your calendars, don't remove it, and write it in pencil. Okay, next item.
Next item is public opportunity to discuss matters not on this agenda but within commission jurisdiction, and I do not have any speakers signed up.
Okay. And our next item.
Next one is item 7, recognition of Commissioner Isla Collin, who has not been able to join us, but we have an
I'm sure
action
she's
item.
at another event celebrating her
watching.
retirement. Or watching us. Maybe she's reading. Well, we do want to recognize Commissioner Collin for her generous gift of her time for the county of Sacramento. We do have a resolution recognizing her upon her occasion of her retirement. There's one whereas in here that I don't think has been said before, so I'd like to just read the clause, and it says, whereas Isla Collin is the last original Sacramento Cable Television Commission member to serve on the Sacramento Metro Cable Commission. Her retirement will result in a gap of historical knowledge and experience for the board to draw upon, and it will. And we're going to miss her, but we wish her well. Thank you. Okay, we are now through the agenda, and we do have a closed item, closed session?
Yes,
okay,
we do.
Would you like to read that?
Excuse me. Do you want to vote on Ms. Collins' resolution?
Oh,
yeah, I was just getting to that.
We've just done this so many times. The other ones I just assumed it was done. Okay.
I'll move. A second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the resolution recognizing Commissioner Collin upon the occasion of her retirement. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So ordered. Thank you.
And our last item is item 8, closed exec session, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to subdivision A of section 54956.9, Smctc versus Comcast. And It's a short presentation.
Expect this to be short, and we do not expect a report at the end of it.
Okay, so we are closing the, we won't be coming back
Close the
here.
meeting. We don't anticipate that there would be a public announcement.
Okay, all right.
Where will it be at?
We're going to meet just right in the back.
In the back, okay.